free movement rift. Poland attacks backwards. Macron as split over EU migration deepens. Warsaw Today laid into the French President Emmanuel Macron over plans to tighten up abuses of free movement rules as the East-West rift over internal EU migration intensified. Polish politicians accused the Paris chief of being backwards for wanting to curb the influx of cheap labor into France, which he claims is undercutting wages and eroding working conditions. Eastern states have been dismayed by the surprisingly tough stance Mr. Macron, who was hailed upon his election as the savior of the EU, has taken on the issue of internal EU migration. The new French president has promised to stamp out abuse of the posted workers system, by which service providers like construction companies and transport firms can hire staff in a poor member state and station them to a richer one. This allows those businesses to circumvent certain local employment rules, including industry wage agreements designed to guarantee staff better pay, meaning they can undercut local firms on price. Mr. Macron has taken an aggressive stance against the practice, which is also a bone of contention of countries like the Netherlands, Denmark and Sweden, as he looks to persuade supporters of Marine Le Pen he can deliver for all of France. But his proposals, which are being backed by the EU Commission, have caused consternation in eastern states whose economies have benefited from boosted tax receipts and workers sending wages back home. They claim that any move to close the posted workers loophole would amount to protectionism and make the EU economy less competitive on the global stage, setting the stage for an intense political battle over the issue. But Maciej Morawiecki, Poland's Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister, said Warsaw would strongly fight any attempts to restrict the rights of its citizens to work in Western EU countries. He told the Financial Times, "It would not be good for the EU because I think that out of the four freedoms of the famous Treaty of Rome, the freedom to provide services is by far the weakest. And modern economies are more and more based on services, so we have to work on how to free up services, how to eliminate red tape, whereas some moves by French President Emmanuel Macron are in the opposite direction." Hitting back against countries like France and Germany, the Polish minister, himself a former Santander banker, said Western nations had performed corporate dumping by flooding Eastern Europe with their financial firms. He raged, "They talk about social dumping. I would say, how about corporate dumping? You have very strong French banks and retail companies in Poland, and you have very strong dividends out of those companies." Mr. Morawiecki added, "We do not tax those dividends, by the way, and we do not call it corporate dumping even if we feel that those companies are advantaged vis-à-vis domestic companies of a similar kind." The EU Commission chief Jean-Claude Juncker unveiled plans to tackle the issue of social dumping last year, saying that the bloc needs to ensure that workers get the same pay for the same work in the same place. Bureaucrats have been coming under increasing pressure from a number of wealthier member states to solve the issue to prevent free movement becoming a major cause of political problems, as it was during the Brexit debate. Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte has repeatedly called for reform of unlimited free movement rules, saying they had led to an influx of cheap labor into the Netherlands which had undercut local workers. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and don't forget to subscribe English News Hub for new excited videos.